This is Assignment 1, where we'll be learning about queues and implementing them in C. The objective of Assignment 1 is to generate random numbers for ages of patients and random numbers for their patient ID, and then retrieving the ID and displaying it on the screen, depending on where the patient is in the queue. So to start, we can create a header file called queue.h, where we compute where patients are in the queue. We can create structs, which is a composite data type declaration that defines a grouped list of variables. So here we have a struct for a node, which includes the patient's number and their age. We also have a struct, which contains the node pointer and a patient at its data. When we have a struct for the queue, then we have a struct for the queue, which includes a node pointer for the head and tail of the queue. In the queueOnQueue function, we create a temp for incoming node pointers and a node pointer for the head to check whether a node exists. If no node exists, then the function creates the very first node. If the incoming node priority is less than the head node, then it moves the head node forward and points the incoming node to the head node and makes the new node the head node. If it's the least priority, then it makes it the very last element of the point tail node. If the priority lies somewhere in between, then it searches for the place in the queue and places it when space is found. In the dequeue function, it removes the patient from the list. This line checks if there's any node in the queue. If not, it prints the queue that the queue is empty. If it's not empty, it moves the head pointer to the next node and makes the next node as the head of the queue. And that is the end of queue.h. The queue.c file generates random numbers for patient ID and the patient's age. So first, we can create an onQueue function. This function creates a node and adds it to the queue and assigns values to the node attributes, which is the patient's number ID, and age. We can then create another function that adds the patient to the queue. First, we need to generate random numbers for the age and the patient's ID number. We can do this by using the rand function, and then we can mod the rand function by 100 so that it creates a random age between 0 and 99. We can also use the rand function to create a 9-digit patient ID. So we create a loop that prints the age and the patient's ID number to the display. So in the main function, we can ask how many patients the user would like to add to the list by using the scanf_s function. This determines how many loops the add patient function in the queue.c file will perform, and then fills up the queue by the number of patients entered by the user. So now that we finished programming, we can run the code. You can see that the program asks how many patients do you wish to add. We can type in 10, and we see that the program prints out the patient's number and the age depending on where the patient was in the queue. And that's Assignment 1.